Welcome to today's training titled Rest. Today we're going to be looking at why it's so hard to rest in our culture, what rest truly is, why we need it in our lives, as well as some practical steps for us to take to reintroduce rest into our life. Have you ever heard Henry Kissinger's quote? He said, "There cannot be a crisis next week. My schedule is already full." Have you ever thought anything similar? According to research, 67% of us check our devices even when there is no alert, and 44% sleep next to our phones. We live fast-paced lives using stimulants like coffee to help us get going in the morning, and some even use alcohol to help us wind down at night. We are being overstimulated, and it's causing stress, depression, health issues, and it shows no sign of stopping. Cheryl Richardson, in her book, Take Time for Your Life, identified an enemy of rest: adrenaline. She says, the increased speed by which we live has contributed to a society suffering from adrenaline overload even more than information overload. When we use adrenaline as our main source of fuel, our body's adrenal system, that fight or flight response that is supposed to alert us to and prepare us for danger, it never has a chance to rest. And this hyper-vigilant state of fight or flight eventually makes it physiologically difficult to slow down. And I've been there. I used to be addicted to adrenaline. I got sick on every vacation for years. My immune system was low, and I was exhausted. My body didn't know what to do with the constant fight or flight state, and it evolved into really serious health issues. But there is hope. We don't have to live this way, performing, striving, cramming, struggling. We can live free, rested, healthy lives. And today we're going to discover what that life can look like and how to get there. All right, so to begin, we need to look at this word rest. What is rest? It's taking a break, a refreshing ease or inactivity after labor or hard work. It's a period or interval of inactivity, solitude, tranquility. It means to be quiet, still, or have peace. Now, resting doesn't mean you have to lie still, sleep, or do nothing. Rest can also be active. It just needs to include the peace and ease aspect. Alex Sujung Kim Pang, the author of the book Rest: Why You Get More Done When You Work Less, talks about how modern medicine has now validated what the ancients knew, that work provided the means to live, while rest gave meaning to life. Thousands of years later, we have the science to prove it. And this is what he says in his book. In the last couple of decades, discoveries in sleep research, psychology, neuroscience, organizational behavior, sports medicine, sociology, and other fields has given us a wealth of insight into the unsung but critical role that rest plays in strengthening the brain, enhancing learning, enabling inspiration, and making innovation sustainable. Rest is obviously critical to so many areas of life. And as I've already mentioned, rest keeps us healthy by allowing our body the necessary downtime. It lowers stress, it aids recovery, it helps us sleep, it provides us with more energy throughout the day, and it boosts brain function. If those benefits aren't enough, consider what Eleanor Brown says. Rest and self-care are so important. When you take time to replenish your spirit, it allows you to serve others from the overflow. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. If you have important relationships, children, or clients, then you know that you can't serve from an empty vessel. We need to take care of ourselves so that we can give and serve. It's about building relationships that will go the distance. Okay, so there are two main aspects that come up in the study of rest. The first is margin, and the second is Sabbath. So Richard Swenson, he describes margin like this. Margin is the space between our load and our limits. It is the amount allowed beyond that which is needed. It is something held in reserve for contingencies or unanticipated situations. Margin is the gap between rest and exhaustion, the space between breathing freely and suffocating. Margin is the opposite of overload. But the trouble is that most of us don't even know when we move from margin to overload. I know that I definitely did not. We end up overextending ourselves, and we can easily burn out, get discouraged, and feel overwhelmed. Creating margin means that we aren't always rushing. We're able to live in the moment and build time to do the things that fill us. It's about intentionally creating a bit of extra so that you have more space in your life. All right, the second concept that comes up in the study of rest is Sabbath. Traditionally, the Sabbath was modeled after the day of rest that God took in Genesis 2, and it was meant to affirm God as creator, affirm Israel's identity, and be a day of rest and worship as a gift from slavery. The Jews observed a day of rest on the seventh day of the week, during which they were to do no work. Sabbath literally means to cease and rest. Although the Sabbath is rooted in the Jewish Christian spiritual practice, most major religions call for a day of rest, and there is so much value in learning about and embracing it. Following a Sabbath or day of rest practice can look different for all of us, but the foundation remains the same. This day of rest is to remind us of our humanness and our frailty, to help us focus on what's really important in life and be a delight and a joy. When it comes down to it, it's not about what specific tasks you choose to do or not do, but about recharging and resting. Wayne Mueller, he's the author of Sabbath, Restoring the Sacred Rhythm of Rest. He has the following to say. In the relentless busyness of modern life, we have lost the rhythm between action and rest. The busier we are, the more important we seem to ourselves and we imagine to others. We are become unavailable to our friends and family. We're unable to find time for the sunset. We whiz through obligations without time for a single breath. And this has become the model of a successful life. Because we do not rest, we lose our way. We miss the compass points that show us where to go, the nourishment that gives us aid, and the quiet that gives us wisdom. Wow. So if our culture is so set against rest, how do we make it part of our everyday lives? We have to schedule rest if we have any hope of having it. Whether it's a weekly or monthly day of rest or a couple weeks of vacation each year, we must put it in our schedule. Embracing simplicity and letting go of what we don't need in our homes, our lives, and our calendars is so key. Contentment is another key, learning to be grateful for what we have. G.K. Chesterton said, "There are two ways to get enough. One is to continue to accumulate more and more. The other is to desire less." Both simplicity and contentment play a big role in that. Here are some very practical activities that promote rest. One is sleep. We all know that sleep is important and that we should probably be getting more of it than we are. It takes dedication, but it is worth it. Here are some benefits of good sleep. Improved memory, curbed inflammation, spurred creativity, sharpened attention, healthy weight, and lowered stress. Number 2 is exercise and fresh air. Getting outside and moving our bodies helps connect us to nature. It improves our mood, boosts our energy, and it promotes better sleep. When we are able to move our bodies, rest of any kind comes easier. And this is a great activity to combine with friends and family and make it a social activity as well. All right, the third one is silence. Learning to be quiet so we can hear our thoughts and become more self-aware is so important. Deepak Chopra says this about silence. Silence is where we get our bursts of inspiration, our tender feelings of compassion, and our empathy, our sense of love. So whether you get quiet through meditation, prayer, or deep breathing, your concentration is bound to improve and your stress reduce as you disconnect from your devices and social media and the busyness of life and learn to be silent and still. The fourth thing is fun-filling activities. These are things that you find fun and are also fulfilling in some way. Intentionally give yourself space to explore hobbies and things that you love. Rest is also about recharging our energy levels, and doing something for you is always a filling thing. And don't forget, the goal of rest is to create space. Space for laughter, generosity, memories, dreams, love, exercise, creativity, experimentation, reflection, spontaneity, joy, peace, friendships, and family. When we live out of a place of rest rather than exhaustion, our awareness of the world around us and our contribution to others increases. So may you learn to slow down, give yourself margin, and rest, because you are so worth it.